her, never opened my ears to
We're
it.
so self-involved. You're like, wait.
So if you get
Are we
one
on?
share,
Are we on?
post it.
Are we on Facebook too?
Just now.
Okay.
So it's
And on NBC Studios in YouTube?
in YouTube. Yep.
I don't see it. I don't know how do I see it on?
For YouTube.
Yeah.
You'd have to go to our page, and
Yeah.
it's probably in the playlist right at the bottom.
Oh, got it. Okay.
Okay. I'm gonna do it too.
Let's see.
Got a big show.
Wait, that's a different NBC Studios. God damn it. Unsubscribe.
Oh, not on the Wrong About Everything? Oh, yeah.
This one, yes.
Oh, I got hot
Okay. Oh, here we go.
I got some hot headphones here. These are a little hot.
Is that us now? Yes, this is us right now. Okay.
Yeah, go ahead and share this one out to your
All
personal
right.
pages if you want.
Okay.
All right.
But all right, we'll be ready to go.
But it's not on Twitter, right?
It is now.
Oh, it is.
All right, I just shared to my page. I think I did.
Hearing everybody.
Turn our sound down.
Yeah. Support for Wrong About Everything comes from Minnesota's credit unions. Credit unions are locally based, member-owned financial cooperatives that return earnings to members through higher savings rates, lower loan rates, and reduced fees. Visit mncun.org for more information.
And welcome back to another episode of.
What is that? It's you, I think, babe.
Is it me? Sorry about that. And welcome back to another episode of the Wrong About Everything podcast. I am Democratic strategist and the Puerto Rican Heat, Javier Murillo.
I am GOP strategist and Twin City Sugar, Brian McDaniel.
I am former Republican Senate Majority Leader Amy Koch.
And I am actor, comedian, and national treasure Lauren Anderson.
And we are
Wrong about everything.
All right, here we go.
another freaking week.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was a week.
Yeah.
This was a week.
This was a week.
So welcome everyone to the Minnesota Credit Union Network studio. Please patronize credit unions. And we are deep down in the bowels of MBC Studios.
We mean basement.
Yeah, sure.
Oh, bowels.
Bowels, except last week I said it wrong.
What did you say?
As Dennis Leary would say, we're not even in the cockles. We're in the subcockle area.
Yeah.
It's beautiful, though. Thank you.
It is lovely. Yes. Yes, we got a lot to talk about this week. It's hard to do banter when the
I
head-
know.
no,
Okay, well, so
I was going to say that I had a critique from somebody.
What was that?
Said that
Too much banter?
we were too jokey last week.
Too jokey.
Well, guess what? I ain't gonna have
No jokes today.
Wow.
No jokes today.
You just get straight serious.
Yeah, I
Today.
mean, I hope that person is proud of what they've manifested.
Well, it is their birthday today, so happy birthday to that person.
Happy birthday, that person.
Karen
I hope you have
it was
no
not Karen
jokes.
Oh, but it's also Karen Maratz's
It's also
birthday.
Karen Maratz's
the
birthday.
ghost of Karen Maratz, who was actually just on.
Karen Moratz,
Yeah.
Wrong About Everything Emeritus,
Yes.
celebrates a birthday today.
Hey, happy birthday.
Age of Aquarius.
Yep. So
There's your banter.
Oh, and it was my dad's birthday yesterday.
it was your dad's birthday yesterday?
Yeah, 78.
Say hi to your dad.
I
for
went-
me.
Dad.
I went to a roller skating rink last night for Karen Maratz's birthday
That's awesome.
in Coon Rapids, which is
the
Yeah,
only reason to go to
cheapskate.
Coon Rapids.
I was not invited, and for that, I thank her.
no, it was super fun. Although as I was saying to you
Do
guys
they still
before-
play like Queen and?
Oh no, totally. Yeah, it's actually
Yeah.
retro night, which is weird because it's
It's just
an every night
where
retro
we-
night. I love it. There's a surprise, not surprising, an unsurprising number of older gay men. Who was like, back in the 70s, we weren't out when we were roller skating, even though everyone knew. And so now they have like lights on their shoes. And
Oh, love.
It's very fancy.
I like it.
Yeah, and I thought that roller skating would be like riding a bike. Turns out it is not.
It is not.
No, my
Nope.
my butt hurts from falling.
Yeah.
Falling, Brian.
I didn't say a word.
Yeah, no, you
Not
just,
today.
your look was super racist.
Was it racist? I don't know if I was
Don't-
going,
no.
I don't know if I was going for
La
racism.
la 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 la.
Hey, you guys.
In my defense.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna sue you for that look. You know how I'm going to do that? I'm going to call the lawyers at Bradshaw and Bryant.
They'll probably take the case.
Yeah.
Good
Their
choice.
entire team of attorneys and staff is dedicated to providing the legal advice you need, combined with the services and personal attention you deserve. If you have questions about how they can assist you with a personal injury, wrongful death, or criminal defense matter, do not hesitate to contact them. Consultations are free. Please call them at 800-770-7008 or contact them via their website at minnesotapersonalinjury.com. So we have a great show today, a heavy topic, but we have lots of interesting stuff to talk about, including a conversation that we will have in a few minutes with Rob Doar of the Minnesota Gun Owners
Friend of the
Caucus.
program, by the way.
Friend of the program, a regular listener. And his organization, the Minnesota Gun Owners Caucus, put out a very interesting statement about the killing of Amir Locke in Minneapolis, and that is indeed is the topic of today's show, because here we are again. How many of these shows have we done?
I don't. I'm thinking about like the fourth precinct.
precinct
we've been doing this together since. Well, you all for
7 years.
7 years, right?
Yeah,
Almost 8.
Is it almost?
It'll be 8 years in May.
I've been on the show 2 years, and I feel like we.
That is just crazy.
I know.
That's crazy.
I feel like we do this kind of episode once a month. I mean, it's like, come on.
It's insane. And so, quite the week in Minneapolis. And I wanted to start with this article that came out on Monday, which is not about this, but this Vogue profile that came out about Mayor Jacob Frey. And the reason I just wanted to talk about it, I don't know if did you guys all?
I did read it, and I like that because it's a Vogue article. They'll say all this stuff, and then they'll casually mention what everyone's wearing.
Yeah, because it's Vogue.
And they'll describe him crossing his legs and stuff, and you're like, I don't care.
And spend a paragraph.
But that is Vogue. How they?
That's
Vogue. But those things profiles like that don't happen without the cooperation of the subject.
No, of course, right.
And so
Vogue. They didn't.
Right. And so
Jacob
it was
did
a
full interview.
It was a retrospective of how hard the last few years from the prism of the mayor's feelings. And the reason I just wanted to start with a mention of that, because I do think it sort of gets at the heart. And I am. It's hard to describe what I'm feeling this week, because as you all know, I worked on the Yes for Minneapolis campaign in the fall. I've been a longtime critic of the mayor, but this issue has been something that I've worked on and thought about a long time, and I know a lot of people who've worked on a lot more and done a lot more and sacrificed a lot more, and it's so freaking infuriating.
Yes.
And what is particularly infuriating to me is the way in which media generally, but also the mayor's and the office use of the media and the role that has played in getting us to here, because the Star Tribune has also published puff pieces like this about the mayor, and while simultaneously not holding him accountable on lots of other things. And so just wanted to get that out of the way.
I don't want to read an article, and we know this too. I'm also I didn't vote for him, and I'm upset with the job he's doing, but we don't need another article, especially in a national magazine, about how he likens the job to his marathon running career and stuff like that. Not in the wake of how you are nationally known right now. He's a nationally known person right now because of literally the mistakes that he's made in the last couple of years.
And that was the thing that struck me about the choice to do to say yes to a Vogue reporter, right? Is that you look at the last 4 years of why you've been in the news, and then choosing to accept a profile like it.
Because no one. Vogue is of course going to be
fluffy,
a fluff piece.
But
It's
that's not
Vogue.
I
it's
mean,
about the clothes. It's about the look.
Teen Vogue is renowned for going in on issues. Yeah. Even that title is this past year has changed me forever.
Yeah.
It's so self-centered. It's so
right. I don't doubt, by the way, that it has.
Yeah.
If you were the mayor of this city in the last couple of years and it didn't change you, there would be something wrong with you.
Right.
Right? It should fundamentally have changed everything about it.
And if I were working for the mayor, I would want that story told, and I would be very careful of the venue where I told it. And that's that's just the only point of that. But like, so then
Inside the political debut, like he's a Southern debutante, like coming out.
Right. That was also
He's
weird.
already been a mayor for 4 years.
He's already been reelected.
Like, what debut?
I don't know what the writer was thinking.
It
There was
was-
this. What was her name? Something
and Michelle
Maria-
Ruiz.
Michelle Ruiz.
It was like, you know, she's not the first reporter. Liz Navertil would be the first. What would be the first one? Star Tribune's Liz Navertil to like sound like a Tiger Beat reporter when covering him.
Yeah.
But this was like way over the top.
Like, enough with the Justin Trudeau comparisons. Like, come on, ask him a real question and like let him respond. Like, let him talk.
Well, and what I'll say to that is Justin Trudeau. That's not something good to be compared to. He was in blackface. The only thing that they have in common is they got like nice curly hair.
Yeah.
I mean, it's. I mean, here it is. Vogue is what it is. I have no doubt that all political calculations were considered before the mayor, agreed to do it. So I think that any criticism that he gets for it, I'm sure he is prepared for it. That he knew it was coming, and they just made the decision that this was a good thing to do. But I do get, everyone's looking for the next Kennedys.
Yeah.
And I think that, but I think that that's not really necessarily what America's looking for.
Right.
That's exactly right. I was going to say the Republicans are always looking for the next Reagan, right? We're always like, well, is this the next? Or we were for a very long time.
Right.
I don't know what's happened to us now, but like for a very long time, people say it's like the next Reagan. And it's just like, stop. First, Reagan was Reagan. And now we need something else because the world has changed.
But like Paul Wellstone, and I'm going to piss people off here, but like Paul Wellstone, Reagan wasn't Reagan until after he was gone. Because when Reagan was president, for 8 years, there were questions about whether he was too old. There were questions about whether he was really running things or was he being told how to do it. He got deified. And Ronald Reagan is why I'm in politics. When he got shot when I was a little kid, I wrote him a get well letter, get well, Mr. President. He sent me back a whole bunch of stuff, same stuff he sent everybody.
You have never sent me a good.
That's not
well
true. I'm always
Did you
checking it.
write
You always
to
need
him?
to be checked on.
Wow.
But anyway, no. So Ronald Reagan,
Are you okay?
I'm as big a fan as anybody. But he did not reach political god status in the Republican Party until after he was.
But also, I think what Kennedy and Reagan have in common is that it was a different media landscape back then. Like all the things that we now know about Kennedy today, we will today know that in real time. Like all the things we now know about Reagan, because that stuff about him not running things that was worse than anyone thought. We now know, but that couldn't be hidden. Right. Like in today's media landscape. And so it was fake then. And so looking for it
Camelot
now is
was
bananas.
BS.
Right.
I do think it's interesting, like karmic, combination here that this Vogue article.
Well, it's a terrible time for this article.
But I mean, I'm telling you, the timing of this like fluffy, stupid Vogue article, in light of what happened this week with the shooting,
highlights it.
It's like such like a smack of like, come on, man, like, can you please do the job? You know what I mean?
Yep. The next thing that happened this week, and this is just like want to lay out because all very very important, I think, for understanding the context of all this, was that a study that had been that the city of Minneapolis, the city council had decided to do of policing that was delayed in its release, was finally released also on Monday, the same day as the Vogue article. And lo and behold, it makes a series of recommendations, about the ways in which Minneapolis Police Department is staffed, specifically just about the kinds of calls that police are called to do that they are not experts in doing, and some of they have recommendations that, if you read the full report, sound an awful lot like the recommendations of the people who are pushing for a Department of Public Safety in the fall. And as former council president Lisa Bender tweeted yesterday, there was no reason this report was held off until after the election, except for the reasons that it didn't make the case that all of Minneapolis, which today removed from their website the part that said that Mayor Frey had banned no-knock warrants, and so that was Tuesday. And so then we get to the moment when this shooting happens, and so what we know now about about how it went down. There's a search warrant for I believe it was a homicide in St. Paul.
Right. So apparently, and I guess I didn't understand all of this, and it makes sense. The two cities work together on investigations, and they will help each other out in this way. So this was a St. Paul investigation wherein they asked MPD to go in, and it was 3 apartments in this building, correct, that they believe had information or evidence to do with this homicide.
Right.
In St. Paul.
And so what we first know is that there is.
Why would a city do that? Like first, like
I mean, I think jurisdictionally, right?
Yeah.
St. Paul.
Okay,
St.
okay.
Paul
This was
can't
in
come and
Minneapolis.
take-
it's not like St. Paul doesn't have their own SWAT. It's like
Right.
it's in your
Right.
jurisdictions. We
Well,
ask
and
you
if
to
you
go.
if you remember last year, there was a situation by a family in Anoka, a woman with her small kids who MPD had asked Anoka to serve a warrant, and it was requested as a no-knock warrant. They went in and destroyed her house, and this was in the news and stuff. Was this, and it was the wrong house. It was the wrong family. The mayor apologized at the time, and he said, "I'm calling for an investigation. They must still be investigating because this time." Then they also said at the first press conference, the chief implied that St. Paul requested a no-knock warrant. St. Paul today has said that was not true, that they actually asked for a regular warrant, that Minneapolis was the jurisdiction that insisted on it being no knock. So they enter the apartment with a fob, which is like that. It is so. Try to imagine yourself, right?
Yeah.
You're in your house and you hear your apartment has key fobs, right? You hear that sound, click, and you don't know what the hell's going on.
Yeah.
And
You're dead asleep.
And they initially said in their first press conference, the mayor and the chief, that they had announced themselves very loudly before entering. The video shows that pretty much everything they said the first day was false. And then they announce themselves. After they are already inside. Amir Locke was asleep on a sofa.
And let's be crystal clear: Amir Locke was not who they were there looking for.
Exactly, and which is very important because the first press release from MPD calls him a suspect 4 times, and that was the premise of the first press conference that the mayor and the interim chief also was the assumption that this person, and they showed a picture of the gun that he had and all that, and lo and behold, it turns out after they released the footage. And this is, remember, Amy, when we taught crisis communications, right? Like, get it all out as early as possible, and don't say stuff that that is either not true or that you don't know, or if you don't know. They asserted, like, by showing us the gun, they made it seem that he was the person they were there to find, and that the circumstances somehow warranted, right? Then they released the body cam footage, and it shows a guy who's asleep and is waking up.
22-year-old
Was startled awake.
Clearly startled awake. Like I actually didn't seem like he heard the key in the lock.
Right.
And what a terrifying way to wake up.
Right.
And he was under a blanket, so they did not know whether it was the person they were looking for, whether it was Amir Locke,
Could have been
whether
a
it was a
woman,
dog,
could have been a
child.
Yeah.
There was no way to know until the very last second. And yes, he had a gun, and we will get into this more. But
it's his prerogative to be able to.
Well,
we're going to get to that.
We'll get into that. But so the only defense I will give for the police, and this is a defense, is that they don't get to wait until they get shot to find out whether it's a good guy, a bad guy, or somewhere in between. But it highlights that it was a situation where somebody was going to get hurt. It was almost
because the timing was like 9 seconds from the entry to the. I mean, so think about 9 seconds. It's like nothing can happen. I don't want you can't possibly know what's going on.
I don't want the officers put in that position.
No,
and I don't want myself put in that position. No. I don't want anyone who is innocent to be put in that position.
Yeah.
And it was just horribly planned.
And
even being undercover and then revealing your hands.
Right.
in this like trigger happy world we're living in. It could be like a death
But I
sentence.
wouldn't even think in 9 seconds, and it was 9 seconds total from like entry to. So,
Yeah.
like I don't believe he heard the door, the lock.
No, right.
I've done that, right? I've slept.
way.
I'm a deep sleeper,
Me
and
too.
and so I would have probably slept through that. So you're talking about 4 or 5 seconds where he had to sort of like wake himself up and go, "Oh my God, there's somebody
Right.
here,"
Right.
And he did have a gun, and clearly in the video he reaches for the gun which he has by his bedside, and we can talk about that because I know lots of people in Wright County have guns very close at hand to
Lots
prevent
of
home invasion or for home
And it was
for home
It was
protection.
pointing down, and his finger was not
Yes,
on the trigger.
yes, and that was the other thing. They said that it was clearly pointed at them in the video.
Yeah.
It clearly was not. Now I will say it was very dark, but again, all of this goes back to this no-knock warrant
right,
and how
right.
it was
The cops were
forth.
put in a bad position too. But for anyone who's out there
Yes.
going, well, why did he have a gun? Well, you know what? Because he was a DoorDash driver, and it's freaking dangerous to be a DoorDash driver. So
And-
he has a gun.
And he's an American citizen, and he gets to have a gun because that's what we've set up here in America. He gets to if he wants to,
And
he can have a gun wherever he wants in his own home.
And that's what
You
I was
know
going to
I
say.
mean?
That today, when the family spoke, like there was a supreme irony, right? That every time in the fall when we talked about reforming police, the only thing that our opponents would say, like carjacking's crime, it's crime, etc., as if there was some, that we can't possibly have both. And so this young man, his parents have said, got a gun because he's a DoorDash driver and because he was particularly concerned about carjackings.
Yes.
And
legally obtained, and he has a permit to carry.
Well, I need to make
And then
a
we should get to
correction. And we should get to Rob. But Davis Senseman just corrected us and says it was not. They were not even looking for a person. It was a search warrant. They were looking for evidence.
Oh my God,
and right.
really?
Yes, they were. Yep.
So thank you.
Thank you, Davis.
thank you, Davis. Oh God.
Davis, friend of the
That
program,
just- yeah.
lawyer.
Let's turn now to friend of the program and is your title ED
Expert.
Executive Director or of the Minnesota Gun Owners Caucus?
Oh, you're
Wait,
muted.
you're muted. There you go.
Oh, here we go.
He warned me about that, and I still forgot.
happens.
Yes, Vice President.
Vice President of the Minnesota Gun Owners Caucus.
But before we get to the meat and potatoes here, because we are talking about earlier about Vogue, I think we have to talk about how fabulous Rob looks. He has lost a ton of weight over the years, and so Rob, you look amazing. Who are you?
COVID brought a little bit of it back, but it'll be gone again.
Who are you wearing right now?
You're also in a very sort of sexy looking back, like
So, some Columbia.
Can you tell us a little bit who the Minnesota Gun Owners Caucus is as well for folks that don't know, because people have to understand what the group is.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the Gun Owners Caucus were a nonpartisan, single-issue organization dedicated to protecting and defending the rights of Minnesota's law-abiding gun owners.
Okay. Thank you.
And so you all put out a statement. I think it was this morning, or was it yesterday about the situation this morning. That was very striking. And could you sort of summarize kind of your thoughts on, after seeing the video and all this, your perspective on the Amir Locke shooting?
Yeah, so I've got a little bit of a couple of different unique perspectives. Brian, our chair, is a former law enforcement officer. My degree's in law enforcement, and I've got another degree in criminal justice. And I'm a post-eligible peace officer, and I used to work for the Hennepin County Sheriff's Office. So we're no strangers to what proper police procedures are. And when we listened to, or when we saw the reports, the suspect, because it was mentioned 4 times, grabbed a gun. And, at first, when you read the report, you're like, okay, well, if you're a suspect in a murder and you grab a gun when cops are in the room, you can kind of expect to be shot. But then when we saw the video, after learning that that Amir Locke was indeed not a suspect, that the warrant was not for any individual, but to recover evidence in a murder investigation. And then that after watching the video, we knew we had to come out with a statement, because Amir Locke, at least to us, seemed to act exactly how any law-abiding gun owner would when they're confronted with 5 or 6 people yelling conflicting commands in their face, shining lights as you're trying to wake up in that first morning haze of trying to figure out what's going on, and then you hear all this noise going on. You don't know if it's in your apartment, if it's outside your apartment, if it's next door. He grabs his gun. You can see very clearly in the photo his finger is indexed along the side of the frame, which is exactly what a good gun owner does, because you don't put your finger on your trigger until you're ready to shoot and until you've identified your target, and then he's dead.
Oh.
And that fast, as about as you just described it.
Yeah.
It took me longer to describe
honestly,
that than it actually
true.
happened.
So Rob, I grew up in Wright County. I grew up with a family. My dad's lifelong NRA and lifetime NRA. We give guns as gifts for Christmas, and that's not. I know that's weird for some folks, but in my family, that's just a good Christmas. What's that?
I have never gotten a gun from you.
Oh well, we do give them. You'll have to,
Just saying.
So I'll remember that for next year. And I know a lot of folks that keep guns and sometimes close at hand because of home protection. And I will stand up and say, you get to protect your home. And I know lots of folks that would say, you're going to come into my house, that I get to protect myself. And so I'm wondering, because your organization is nonpartisan, I would say and I know you have endorsed and worked with both sides of the aisle. I would assume predominantly Republican, or probably percentage-wise more Republican lawmakers. Has there been pushback? Because I'm fascinated at the Republicans who would absolutely say, you don't get to come to my home, I get to protect my home, and I would be one of them. Who might push back. I'm curious if you've gotten pushback, or if you've been largely people saying, you're right, Rob.
It's mixed for sure. We're getting threats from people who aren't members to cancel their memberships, and lots of things like that. People accusing us of aligning ourselves with BLM and Antifa. We're no strangers to this controversy. We came out very much. We came out in support of Philando Castile after he was killed as another permit holder who informed an officer that he was carrying, and then was shot shortly thereafter. That we waded into these controversial topics because the fact that we don't care particularly about allegiance to a particular party or a particular ideal. I've got former friends of mine that I went to skills with who are cops right now, who have unfriended and blocked me because there seems to be this just false expectation that there has to be a dichotomy. You're either supporting the individual or you're supporting law enforcement. If you do support one, then you're opposing the other. It's very possible that the officers in this instance were presented with information and they acted on the information that they had without any sort of malice or any deviation of policy. I think there's two separate incidents that happened here. Everything that went up until they opened the door and everything that happened after they opened the door. Why was a no-knock warrant issued in this case?
Yeah.
All of those questions, when it should have been a daytime knock and announce warrant where Amir would have had the ability to wake up, go to the door and ask what's up, and then he'd still be alive and the cops would have still had whatever evidence they were looking for. But I think the pushback comes from people who expect us to do one thing or expect us to blindly support law enforcement. And it's been a little bit interesting to see that we're getting hate from both sides, so we must be doing something right.
I want to read a couple sentences from your statement because I think they're very powerful. It says, Mr. Locke was not a suspect in the crime for which the warrant was issued and was not named at all in the search warrant. And by the way, I'm just sitting with this I missed in all of this
That it wasn't a person.
Assume that there were individuals named, and Davis, our listener and friend of the program, I am freaked out by how horrible that is. But your statement continues, Rob. The tragic circumstances of Mr. Locke's death were completely avoidable, stated Doar. It's yet another example where a no-knock warrant has resulted in the death of an innocent person. In this case, as in others, the public should expect and receive full transparency and accountability from law enforcement agencies that serve and protect our local communities. Amir Locke, a lawful gun owner, should still be alive, said Brian Strasser. Black men, like all citizens, have a right to keep and bear arms. Black men, like all citizens, have the right to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable search and seizure. So Rob, I hear your, how do you resolve, for yourselves and your members, right? This, because there is an assumption that your group would be, knee-jerk for law enforcement. What do you say to folks beyond, we're obviously, we think you're being consistent, but the pressure must be intense at moments like this.
Yeah, I mean, it is. The good thing about us is that as long as we're consistent, we don't really need to worry about explaining one way or the other why we're not doing one thing or not doing another thing. We've very, very consistently said that civil rights are for everybody. We have a booth at Twin Cities Pride every year, and we get lots of hisses and lots of side eyes and things like that. But we're there promoting the right of people for self-defense. One of our allied groups, the Pink Pistols, they're an LGBTQ plus gun rights group. They're there with us. And we hold firm that civil rights and the right to self-defense, the right to keep and bear arms, is one of those core fundamental constitutional rights. It is just as American as your right to free speech. And every citizen, regardless of race, regardless of what they believe, regardless of whatever pronouns they pick, deserves to exercise their right to be free from oppressive annihilation, whether that's from a criminal entity or whether that's from a government entity.
So you do occasionally get from the pink guns like a "yes, queen," right?
Yes, we do.
Pink pistols, the Pink Pistols.
Hey, Brian, you want?
No, I have a question. So, Rob, and if you're not the appropriate person to answer this, I apologize. But having never done criminal law, I'm not 100% clear. So it's certainly not the rank and file police officers who make any kind of decision on what kind of warrant they're issued. They go where they're told. Who ultimately determines whether, what time of day they go, what type of warrant it is? Is it someone within the police department? Is it someone within the county attorney's office? What's the correct kind of chain of command there?
Yeah, so every warrant that's issued in Minnesota has to have a probable cause affidavit, and that affidavit is filled by whatever officer is seeking the evidence. So in this case, it may have been a detective who was working on the homicide case or another officer. They have to fill out specifically, in line with the Fourth Amendment, the persons or places to be searched and the things that are to be seized. They have to notify that. Now, if they're requesting a no-knock warrant, they also have to explain why a daytime warrant wouldn't be acceptable. I think it's 626.14. They have to go through and say, we can't execute this between the hours of 7 a.m. and 8 p.m. because, and we can't knock and announce because, and they have to be able to convince a judge to sign off on that reason. Now, that being said, there are a good amount of law enforcement officers who know which judges they want to go to in order to get signatures. So if they know that maybe their information isn't quite as strong as it would be, they may have a preferred judge that they go to seek that. So there may be some opportunity for judicial oversight here, but at the very least, every search warrant has to have that affidavit, which explains what they're looking for, why they believe that it's evidence in a crime, and then if they're seeking a no-knock warrant, which, as you guys just reported, St. Paul wasn't seeking that. It was Minneapolis that insisted on it. They have to explain why it has to be a no-knock warrant. And the justifications for a no-knock warrant are, one, that if you don't use a no-knock warrant, that evidence is going to be irrecoverably destroyed. So if you don't get in there quick, somebody might ditch the evidence or destroy it or whatever the case may be. Or two, that if you knock, there may be a substantial risk to officer safety or public safety. It seems like an initial knee-jerk reaction would say to get rid of all no-knock warrants. I probably sympathize with that. If my options were either we have to tolerate innocent people dying so that we can go and get evidence, or there's no-knock warrants, I would choose no-knock warrants every day of the week. But if you imagine a situation where maybe if you do knock, you give somebody the opportunity to grab a child as a human shield, a hostage situation, there may be situations that call for that, but I imagine those should be few and very few far between.
Amy?
Yeah,
Yeah,
so-
like it seems to me that the no-knock warrant is like the last resort, right? Like you got to go through a lot of hoops and a lot of steps to like justify that.
That's what I was, and I can't, for evidence instead of a person. It seems bizarre, but Amy, you wanted to jump in?
Yeah, no. So I was just going to follow up on the no knocks because there was my understanding there were some reforms done, and there was conversation in the city of Minneapolis that no knock warrants were going to be no longer issued, or like you said, at least much less. And then so I'm curious how this could happen. I guess it's still the judge's sign off. Is that the answer to that? That ultimately the judges and law enforcement get to decide that question,
but the
not
judge
policy.
judge always had to sign off on them.
Right. But I was understanding that there was reforms to make them either much less of an option, and I can understand why. I can't imagine the tension that must be running through law enforcement officers when you're like operating in that manner. It's got to be intense. It's got to be dark. It's got to be sudden, and it's got to be high level intensity. And never mind them when they go through the door and if someone there that didn't know that they were coming. It just seems dangerous for so many reasons. I maybe again you're the wrong person, but I'm wondering about the reforms. Yeah.
Yeah. So during one of the special sessions in 2021, they sought some pretty severe reforms. There were even some efforts to ban them altogether. What they landed on was something pretty scaled back. They added in some extra accountability steps, like that if you wanted a no-knock warrant, that the chief law enforcement officer, so that would be the sheriff or the police chief, would have to review the application and approve it. So did the chief approve this one? She must have, or she must have designated somebody to review those approvals. So this is what gets me very frustrated, and something that's very consistent with MPD. We do a lot of data practices act requests, and MPD is consistently like 1 to 2 years before they get you the information that you requested. And it seems like whenever there's an opportunity to give some light, to give some information, they seem to choose the path of dragging their feet. I think Paul Bloom just tweeted out that the documents are sealed now, so now we're not going to get any of that
that's from Fox 9, right? Paul Bloom from Fox 9. Yeah.
But like if they could release the affidavit, and then the police chief can go out and say, here's why we believed a no-knock warrant was necessary. We might have some better context. We might have a better idea of why this happened. But every minute that they sit there and drag their feet and they say, I don't know, and hem and ha, it only makes people more angry, more distrustful, and allows for more speculation to grow.
Well, and then, not just say we don't know or not tell, but actually the interim chief Huffman actually said that you need to ask St. Paul, sort of strongly suggesting that St. Paul requested a no-knock warrant, and now today we hear from St. Paul, no, we didn't. Like, so it's more than just like concealing. It's actually lying.
Well, and it's interesting that now that it's being reported that it is sealed, because I did watch also the press conference with the mayor and the chief, and they must have said transparency and accountability like 10 times. So I'm questioning why then is it completely locked down for the press? I know there are parts of it that they have to protect. There are people involved. There's personnel issues, but to have it locked up now.
And this can't be said enough. The mayor claimed last year to have banned no-knock warrants.
Yeah.
He ran on it. All of Minneapolis had it on their website until today. Like, this was one of the things that was supposed to be like him, like the both and. We can both like have a safe community and accountability. That was one of his major points on accountability. I would like to know how many of these warrants have happened since they were supposedly banned.
Well, that was one of the things that was supposed to be included in the statutes. Is they're supposed to be keeping track of all of this.
Oh, that's in the statute.
Not releasing the data.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, that's in the statute too.
And in the current climate, like it's so it just seems like the stupidest thing to do is to lock all that information away. And it just speaks to like an embedded culture that I think has been happening over time of like, we work in the shadows. Everything's a mystery. You don't get to touch us. We can do whatever we want, and we have no accountability for it.
Yeah. And so So like you've been I think you've been doing quite a bit of media today. Is that correct?
I think you guys are number 8 today.
Whoa.
And that's interesting to me. Why do you
Your clock radio is on its way.
Yeah. Why? That's interesting. Why do you think there has been so much interest? Have people asked pretty much the same questions we have, or?
Yeah, I mean, Ben Crump actually called us out by name today and thanked us for supporting the family. So I think that had something to do with it. But I think that all too often, politicians and politically aligned groups don't want to risk upsetting anybody, so they don't wade into the uncomfortable waters. But for us, we're very comfortable always standing on what we believe are the rights of law-abiding gun owners. And what really fascinates me is the same people who are pounding on their keyboards that they're ready at a moment's notice to take on government agents who are going to try to remove their guns. When they see somebody who is essentially shot at point blank range, who did nothing wrong other than wake up and not understand what was going on and grab his gun in self-defense. Not that that's even wrong. And yet they're going to blast us for standing up for Amir Locke's right to be free from unreasonable search and seizure, and killing a person. Graham versus Connor is a seizure. That is a Fourth Amendment violation. So it's easy for us. It's easy for me to sleep at night being consistent. And I think that some people just don't expect groups like ours to wade into those controversial waters.
I've known Rob a long time. I've known Brian Strasser a long time, and I just really, really, really want to commend you guys, because political courage is something that is in short supply out there, and you guys took a strong stand for something you believed in, knowing that you were going to catch hell from it, and you don't seem worried about that at all. So I respect very much what you said. I very much respect what you're saying here and how you're educating our listeners and myself. And I just want to thank you and very proud.
Yeah, thanks, Rob. And it kind of, and thanks for being on today too, because it kind of speaks to the manifesto of this podcast. Is like every week we get together and we talk about things that are hard for people who disagree to talk about. And like Amy and I talk about this all the time. She always says, I come from Wright County. We give guns to each other for Christmas.
We do. I hadn't heard that one before.
Well,
no, she says that a lot.
Trust me, I have heard it. and I'm on.
We do.
I'm literally on the other side of the table here. I'm as liberal as it gets. My dad is as liberal as he gets, and we're also avid gun owners. My dad doesn't believe in like semi-automatic weapons and that kind of stuff, but we have had guns in the house the whole time. Everybody in my family is military except for me, including my stepmom and my sister and both my brothers. And so we have a lot of guns and a lot of gun know-how, and we believe in the right to have guns. And so it's nice to hear that it is like ubiquitous in your organization to like that everybody deserves this right, because I think that like Amy and I believe very different things, except the fact that we have the right to own guns.
Right, we have we're strong 2A proponents.
If we can do it responsibly,
Yeah.
And I appreciate it.
I saw a lot of people on my timeline, Rob, doing to you what often like the Chamber of Commerce or Republicans will do when they agree with me. They'll always have to preface it by saying, I normally don't agree with anything this guy says, but, and so I'm not going to do that to you, and just say thanks for being on the show today and for your moral and ethical consistency on this.
Thank you, Rob.
Thanks, Rob.
Yeah, it's my pleasure, and I think that that it's important. I think we're getting a lot of. I think Max from the Reformer was one of the first people to put the story out there. So naturally, we caught the eye of a lot of the more progressive-minded people. And to those who know us, to our members, we are getting a lot of support. I would say even from our members and our supporters, we're probably the vast majority of our members are supporting us because they know who we are. They know what we stand for. They know that we're consistent. We don't fall into these other kind of conservative group traps where we're thinking that it's our issue plus something else.
Right.
So that makes it a little bit easier. But just want to throw out there too that I really appreciate when we can all find something that we can agree on and not not try to bring in other tangential items. Unfortunately, there was a state rep who last night was saying, "Where are all the gun rights groups?" Standing up for Amir. I had already been tweeting my stuff at that point. We released our statement early overnight, and then they retweeted our statement saying, "Well, now hopefully, I hope we can work on common sense gun laws." And I just hope that when we find these situations when we can agree, why don't we take that common ground and try to build something on it, rather than trying to bulldoze in other tangential issues, instead of really just trying to build on the things that we can actually make a difference on. And I think there's an opportunity here for all sides to look at this and say, hey, none of us should be okay with a law-abiding gun owner getting shot by police. So whether you believe in gun rights or whether you don't believe in gun rights, that singular aspect is probably something that we can build a lot of common ground and build some really sound public policy around.
Hey, Rob, so if someone wants to check out your organization or maybe join it, where would they find you guys?
There it is, gunowners.mn. If you go there, you can sign up for our email list. And then we've got different membership options or one-time donations you can make for us.
Brian whispered to me, he's like, we should ask Rob
to
sign up, and I was like, how about you do that?
but Javier's scrolling.
I mean, first day then be right.
Rob,
to be fair,
we
though,
can't
the
go all
one
that.
person who has thanked me on the podcast in the history has been Javier.
Yeah, see? You see, you guys?
That you thank. What did he thank you for?
Oh, like in the end, spanks and thanks.
Yeah.
We've done that for about 8 years.
No, I'm saying what was his thank? Of you?
I think it was this is nothing related to the Gun Owners Caucus, so I'll take my Gun Owners Caucus hat off for a second. But back when the Republican Party was going through their hysteria about Muslims and
that's what
Sharia
it was.
law
That's
and
right.
things like that, both, again, Brian and I being the intellectually consistent people we are, civil rights are for everybody. If Republicans want to participate or if people of the Muslim faith want to participate in the Republican Party, we should welcome them. And that was somehow controversial.
For a second there, I thought he was talking about me, but he's probably talking about Brian Strauser.
He for sure wasn't talking about you.
Definitely was not talking about you.
There's a lot of similarities between you Brian, and myself too, philosophically.
All right, Rob.
Tell Brian thanks, by the way, too.
You have a great weekend, and thank you so much for being on the show.
My pleasure, guys. Thanks.
It's I really like that. This is just such a hard thing because, we just had this election just a few short months ago, and I'm talking to a lot of people who worked on that, and just to be absolutely clear, there is no joy, there is no comfort or anything in feeling like, this is what we were talking about. Because we were trying to change things. And I think just the cynicism, we have a police chief who, like, this week has lied several times. I mean, is there going to be accountability? Should he be stepping down? A mayor who claimed to have banned something that he did not ban. It was just so absolutely cynical. And then we had the spectacle last night of the press conference joke, like that. That was then interrupted by Nikema Levy Armstrong,
who is the vice, or she's the vice chair of the mayor's accountability task force, or the task force that's supposed to be working.
Yeah,
on.
actually, you mentioned it. I wasn't going to say anything about this, but there was a lot of stuff on Twitter yesterday about because before there were. Some of the first information that we got about this came out from Nikema Facebook post that Nikema Levy Armstrong posted, and there were a lot of people who especially from the young organizing world, people who supported Yes for Minneapolis, and remember Nikema Levy Armstrong did not, saying what is the role that she plays with Minneapolis Police Department? Because and I'll say there are a lot of folks who feel this way, and finally people are starting to say it and I wish the media would be a little more discerning in how they describe community activists and who they describe as community activists, because she is a legitimate community activist, not saying that, but so are a lot of other people, and she does not speak for everyone, and in fact has been hugely tied to the mayor. I think that was incredibly choreographed, because her credibility was being attacked yesterday for her to interrupt the press conference yesterday, but every opportunity that there has been to make progress back during the 4th precinct, when the majority of activists negotiated with the Dayton administration to end the occupation, Nikema Levy Pounds at the time, she found out about it and tweeted and blew the agreement up, and the occupation lasted 2 more weeks after that. There's a reality, which is that the status quo actually helps her in terms of her profile. That's my personal opinion, and I wish media would be a little more critical.
Ready for
what?
Plugs?
Are you trying to? Jesus.
Plugs?
I was just gonna.
I don't know
wait
all
till
the
you get
words. I don't know.
Yes.
I waste all my words on Wordle.
Yes. I'm going to start by thanking Mary Healy and Adam Grant, who are the newest members of our Not a Dick Club.
Mary Healy, Adam
That's
Grant.
right. Adam tweeted at me today. He said, "I'm going to be listening today," and he said, "I'm going to join the Not an Asshole Club." I'm like, "Hey, that's not what we call ourselves.
No.
Settle down."
It's the dick, not the asshole.
You know, every time we do swears, I always do actually think of Rob Doar. Remember Rob Doar told us about his 12-year-old daughter?
Because she
listened
would
a lot. She loved the podcast. I don't know if she still does. She's probably older now and hates us or is annoyed with us. But I always think about her still. And of course I still think of her. This was 4 or 5 years ago as a 12-year-old, a little 12-year-old.
Yeah, Rob brings her to the Capitol every once in a while. So back when we used to be allowed to go there, I've met her a couple different times.
Yeah. So Adam and Mary, thank you so much, and to the rest of you, this is the kind of conversation that we have every week. We bust our butts to do it. We don't get paid to do it, but it costs money to put it together, and so we would appreciate your support. So if you can afford to contribute to the podcast, and you are an occasional or a regular listener, please contribute, because if you can afford it and you are an occasional or a regular listener and you're not contributing, you're kind of being a dick. Just saying.
You're kind of stealing.
It's kind of stealing.
It's a form of stealing.
It is a free format.
Not an actionable one, but like a moral one.
Morally. Yeah.
Morally.
That's an immoral download.
Morally stealing.
Yeah. And not like your immoral downloads.
Yeah, well.
Those are.
Hey, no jokes, remember?
That's right.
No jokes.
No jokes about. That's right.
Just like my
We're
act.
too jokey. Too jokey.
All right.
Yeah.
Plugs. Who's got plugs?
So, who's got plugs? I'm going to be on Almanac tonight, up again on the Almanac political duo via Zoom. Thanks, Omicron.
Yeah, I know they're still doing Zoom.
We're back to Zoom.
Yeah, back to Zoom.
So,
well, I was on a few weeks ago, and that was the first night. They were like, you know what? Never mind. Don't come in.
Yeah, so I'm
going to do Zoom.
On with Andy Brem, and what do you got to plug?
Well, a little bit of joy in a rather serious podcast today. Noodle Pie Island. We drop our merch next Tuesday, so be sure to join us. We just dropped our official. For those of you watching, you get to see the opening song. We just dropped our official season 2 opening intro. It's available to see on either our Instagram page at Noodle Pie Island, or you can now join us we have a Facebook group if you prefer Facebook. Everything is populated there. And then you all came out in droves to sign up and to subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is totally free, but it really means a lot. The more subscribers we get, we can change our URL to be Noodle Pie Island, which makes us even easier to get to. So check it out. It really means a lot. Your kids will love it, I promise. And then today we dropped another Javier's on the show.
Yes.
His episode is episode 4, and we're just really looking forward to you all seeing the merch, loving the merch, and then at the end of the month, we go live for the first time on February 26th.
You will wow at my performance.
Saturday, 11 a.m., February 26th is our first day of season 1. Season 2, excuse me.
I do have something. So, listener Shannon Watson has a great group called Majority in the Middle.
Hey,
and
Shannon.
Next week, as part of her Emerging Ideas program, there is a program called Bipartisan Before It Was Cool, the Wrong About Everything story. And it will have both Javier and me on it, talking about the podcast origin story and kind of how, we've been doing this since 2014.
Yeah. I will say the conference or something, it's called, or the panel's called Emerging Ideas.
Yes.
Which is, that's their thing, not our thing.
You're emerged ideas.
Yeah. No, we are friends, but we're not merging our ideas.
We're not merging, no.
Yeah.
Also
emerging, like
emerging, yeah. But also, a friend of the program, Kim Inslee, is going to be the moderator, and so it'll be Tuesday, February 8th, 6 to 7 p.m. It'll be a Zoom event, so check out Majority in the Middle to find out all the details, and we'd love to have you join their group and then join our panel.
So say hi to Kim for me.
Will do.
We will.
How
And Kim's dad.
Brian and Amy, you can catch us on the BS Show now on Tuesdays. It is the BS Show podcast and on various radio stations all throughout the day on Tuesdays across the state of Minnesota. BS Show.
Cool.
Well, one other thing, let's also plug Profession Confession with Gabe Noah. He's our fantastic producer, and you should check out his podcast, as it's awesome.
Yes. Now, thanks. Who wants to go first?
Okay. I can go if you want.
Yep.
Okay. All right. So my spank is going to be, this is probably going to surprise people. It is going to be Nancy Pelosi. Nancy Pelosi came out, yesterday on the eve of the Winter Olympics, and she was referencing the 2022 Olympics, and she came and gave a warning to American athletes. She was warning them to not use the games as a venue for protest. And she says, I would say to our athletes, you're there to compete. Do not risk incurring the anger of the Chinese government because they are ruthless, Pelosi said on Tuesday to the Congressional Executive Commission on China. I know there is the temptation on the part of some to speak out while they are there. I respect that. No, you don't. But I also worry about what the Chinese government might do to their reputations and to their families. Now, there has been an ongoing conversation about that. But for the leader and the Speaker of the Minnesota House, what is she, third in line for the seat?
Not the Minnesota House.
The U.S. House. What is she, third in line to lead the country?
It's bizarre.
It is bizarre. It is weak. It is... I mean, it's like, why don't you just give all power to our Chinese overlords?
Well, I want to know, why did she let LeBron James write that for her?
But that also, that sounds like that might be friendly advice to give someone quietly, like, hey, you know what, don't make things more complicated. Focus on your what. But like, you're not giving friendly advice. Shut up.
No, and also, yes, you're Speaker of the House too.
Why are we there?
Exactly. Then maybe, if it is that, why are we there? We can't talk about human rights. We can't talk about what they're doing to their own people. We can't talk about
the Uyghurs and everybody.
Exactly.
Well, there is a diplomatic. There is this was particularly weird.
Mention Taiwan when you're over there and see what happens.
The Biden administration has a diplomatic boycott of the games, so it's particularly bizarre, and because of the issues.
Because of the issues, right? It makes no sense. Yeah, terrible.
Oh, Nancy.
Maybe you're getting, I don't know. Maybe it's time to move on, Nance. My thank this week is, we've talked about this in the past. The Sheriff has announced that he will not seek re-election. By that we mean Sheriff Hutchinson of Hennepin County, who was in a terrible accident maybe a month ago, leaving a sheriff's conference in Dodge outside of Alexandria. He rolled his squad car that he was in. When he finally was tested, he was at 1.13. He was incoherent at the time. He said he had a cab driver. He got injured. There was questions about what else was going on. There was questions about how this was all handled, how it was the things that were covered up, and there was a lot of pressure on him to step down. I think it is the right decision. I'm one that very much believes in second chances and that people make mistakes, and I still hold to that. I do believe for himself to get better, to truly heal, and to come back, he needed to step away. He's the top law enforcement officer of the largest county in the state, and he made a really big mistake that really precluded him from being that top officer. And I applaud him for stepping down. It's the right decision. He's going to see that. He's not going to see that right now, but I believe firmly if he puts in the work and he truly does what he needs to get himself right, that he will know, looking back, that it was entirely the right decision. Some of us have been there. Some of us know this, and he cannot hear this right now, but it is true. You are making the right decision, and you will benefit from this, and you will be better and stronger in short order, I hope. So to that, thank you.
I can go next. Okay. My thank this week is across the pond to the former number 10 chief advisor to Boris Johnson. His name is Dominic Cummings. And here's what I love about English, in English politics, is they have, they're English. So they get to say what they're actually thinking in like robust debate.
And it always sounds charming.
And it always sounds, you're right. It does. They use words like fuckwit. So even though he used to advise this guy, he came out saying the prime minister's former chief advisor called his former boss a complete fuckwit and cared more about Big Ben's bongs and looking at maps wanted to order the building of things in his honor. So he was basically like, Boris Johnson is not fit to lead. He thinks of himself as the Cummings came out to say that he thinks of Boris Johnson thinks of himself as kind of a dictator. And he said that Boris Johnson has said to him, and quote, this is from The Guardian, by the way, I'm the fucking king around here and I'm going to do what I want. So to have your prime minister say stuff like that is like a terrifying thought. Cummings also told the magazine that Johnson acted as if he was considering what would a Roman emperor do. So that again, terrifying, absolutely terrifying. So
Yeah.
I want to thank, I don't know much about Dominic Cummings other than outside of this article. I'm just gonna be totally honest about this. But after reading this article, I think it's cool that he's like, I want to thank him for like being like, I'm going to make it my mission to make you not be in office anymore.
And I just appreciate them printing the word fuckwit.
Yeah.
I believe Amy was called that for naming her dog after Margaret Thatcher.
I'm sure I was. I muted him though.
But you giggle because it's somehow
it's how people
not right
talk.
away. I didn't.
People talk, but
Now-
only on 10 p.m. on NBC.
Right, now you
Or
can.
on-
So my thank goes out to you, Dominic Cummings. I don't know much about your political life. We probably disagree, but thanks for fighting the good fight because Boris Johnson's a fuckwit. Okay. The next thing I want to spank Texas and the banning of more books. We spent a lot of time talking about Guns Day. I also believe that we should not censor the way we are. So Texas has come out and they're doing a whole nother round of banning books, and students are speaking up about it, saying that this is harming them in the long run and it's putting them behind other students because they cannot they don't have the same education as other people, so it's hurting their chances of getting into colleges. Most of it's hurting honor students the most. So what the article went on to talk about is that most of the books are banned that are by female authors, LGBTQ authors, and POC authors. So, and it's some of it is like textbook type material, that kind of thing. So it's no surprise I'm against banning books altogether. I think you should be able to read what you want. Knowledge is power. And I cannot believe that Texas is going in hard for this. If you get a chance, check out the article because the student that I'm trying to pull it up right now. It's not coming up, but there's this, here, open link. La da 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 da. This is good radio. There's one of the honor students speaks out against the banning of the books, and she really calls it to question. She was like, she basically said like, every time districts have tried to ban books, they've always been viewed as the bad guys in history or something akin to that. And I think she's totally right. And I'm glad she said it. So that's my spank. Boo.
All right. I can go next. Oh, sorry. Did she do both of them?
Yep.
Okay. I'm gonna double.
You could have asked me directly.
Well,
I'm right here.
I'm your translator.
Well, or the quarterback.
I'm the quarterback.
I'm erasing you.
Just like Texas.
My first.
I too am a female author. Spaghetti Head Ned. You can purchase it on Amazon.com.
I'm gonna ban you fuckwit. So my first spank is going to be to Los Angeles Mayor Garcetti. What's his first name? It's not Gil Garcetti because that was That was somebody else. I can't remember his first name. Los Angeles Mayor Garcetti, who is in the picture that's up on your screen right now. He is attending the football game. The LA Rams were in the NFC Championship game, and he's in a picture with Magic Johnson, who I think I'd like to have a picture with. Problem is, they're maskless in a state, in a city that really drills down on what regular people can do. Once again, the elites are doing whatever the hell they want, but it's okay, everybody, because he says he held his breath for the maskless photo with Magic Johnson. Fuckwit.
Yeah, I think so.
Hey,
Call it spanks and fuckwits. So you are spanked, Mayor Garcetti.
he did not inhale.
He did.
We
not
should go do a
inhale.
show
He
from
did not
London
exhale.
and be
He did not
spanks and
inhale.
It's Eric Garcetti.
Eric Garcetti. Yeah. So anyway, that's just ridiculous. It's insulting. We get it. You got caught. You want to tell other people what to do. You got caught. Apologize.
Is that a Rams game? Looks like.
Is that a Rams game?
Of course.
Yes. All right. My second spank is going to be a combo spank before comedians, I'm using air quotes, Al Franken and Whoopi Goldberg. Whoopi Goldberg got suspended from The View, the most unwatchable show on television, for an extraordinarily ignorant take on the Holocaust, saying that the Holocaust wasn't about race because it was all white people. Now, we all know that it was very much a question about race because they had the master race who certainly did not see the Jewish people as being their equivalent or white people. You know what? People say stupid stuff. They think stupid stuff. She's 66 years old. She probably could have known this, but she wanted to make a point. She doubled down on it a couple times before coming out with a lot of apologies and whatnot. And so, if Whoopi Goldberg can do something to not be such a dumbass, that's great. I applaud her for that. She is suspended and very angry that she's suspended. The second part of the spank is going to be to Al Franken, who said Whoopi Goldberg, she's not anti-Semitic. I mean, she changed her name to Goldberg, which is either like super stupid or trying to be funny and not being very funny, because just changing her name, appropriating the name of the Jewish people, is certainly not something that makes her any kind of a Jewish hero. So in any event,
I think he was trying to be funny.
well, and he failed as per usual.
Sad.
Do you know what that's like, right, Brian?
I do know what that's like.
Yeah, but not on like a national stage.
Yeah, no.
Yet.
Well, I don't know. East Grand Forks is kind of
he
a
bombed?
deal. Yeah. No.
At the Spud.
Not as bad as Al Franken.
East Grand Forks is like the antithesis of a national stage.
No, it was the Spud
it's
something.
almost
It's like a vacuum.
It's almost international. I could see Canada from there, maybe. But in any event, I'm spanking both of them, and they're both ignorant and dumb.
Yeah. And I too have a double spank for first state Republicans who this last week were caucuses, and the winner of the GOP caucuses was vaccine misinformationist Scott Jensen. It's
Yeah, we didn't even mention it.
No.
Didn't even remember.
That's why I'm doing it now.
Good for you.
That's why I'm doing it now. So he's the good doctor has been slammed by colleagues, slammed by folks in the profession, and banned from various platforms for spreading misinformation about the virus. It's a very odd choice that the party is doing in a state that is what now 70-some% vaccinated to throw.
We're over 70.
Over 70 to throw their lot with the unvaccinated, who are undoubtedly making this pandemic last longer than it should. But here we are. There are people who might on my side who might take joy in, like, well, he's a nut, and so we'll be able to run against the nut. I take no joy, just the same way that I take no joy in all the other craziness happening in the Republican Party, because it's downright scary. And on that point, today the Republican National Committee voted to censure Representatives Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger for participating in the inquiry on the January 6th insurrection at the Capitol, and they called the events of January 6, 2021, quote, legitimate political discourse, close quote. A democracy cannot survive if we are a two-party democracy and only one of those parties agrees that sometimes you win elections and sometimes you lose them. If one of the parties' position is any election... Are you hearing that?
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry.
Yep.
Okay. Sorry, I don't know what the hell that was.
Damn,
Damn, that was Mark
it was
Zuckerberg.
real. If people couldn't hear it.
If you couldn't hear it, Mark Zuckerberg came in my ear and was like, at Facebook.
That was meta.
That was super weird.
Phrasing.
Yeah.
We're all in the meta universe.
Anyway, oh yeah. God damn you.
You were on a roll too, Javier. Gosh.
I know I was on a roll. Anyway, like it's scary. I don't tire of saying this. I actually have a book to suggest, two different books to suggest to revive the Wrong About Everything book club.
Oh, good.
One of them being about an analysis by a foreign policy expert on the potential for civil war in the United States. I take no joy, as my husband thinks, like he hates when I talk about this stuff because he's like, and I'm like, I don't want this to happen. I'm saying we should work to avoid this. It's one of the reasons I hang out with these guys every Friday. Yeah.
And the second is our super smiles.
Oh.
Sure. Okay.
Oh, we got super
Anyway.
smiles in the conversation
Look
now.
Anyway, so just spanking the Republican National Committee for becoming an arm of and a personality cult of Donald Trump. And with that, I am the Puerto Rican heat and Democratic strategist, Javier Murillo.
I am Twin City Sugar and holding my breath next to Javier, Brian McDaniel.
I am full of super smiles, Amy Koch.
And I'm just happy to be here. Lauren Anderson.
And we are
Wrong About Everything.
See you next week.
Thank you, Rob Doar.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening.
Stay classy, San Diego.